diarrhea of the mouth video-wise. October on crowdfunding, usually I look at months with holidays in them, and you see people just passing, right? Halloween, North American holiday. Nope. Yeah! A lot of big names. It's like everyone decided to throw their 2 cents in this month to show us what they've got going on. And this is where I'm going to tell you about it and tell you my opinions way too freaking early. Let's go. This month is actually blowing up my wish list. A lot of crossover with things I am super interested in and stuff that is launching. And then the question is just, where do you freaking start, right? Well, I guess you start with potentially some of the biggest of the big. And the ones that you'll recognize right from the get-go. Now, unfortunately, your boy truly does not have any hands-on copies of these, but there are plenty of people that already do. So, you're going to be seeing a ton more content on these first 2 very, very shortly, because I'll make the argument that these could be some of the biggest of the month. Below Asylum, or really B.E.L.O.W. Asylum. I forgot the colon in there, but you can't even search it on Board Game Geek with the words below. You actually have to put the periods in there. So I think Awakened Realms, you might want to change the title of it anyway. But from the designer of frickin' SETI? Yes! That designer. Action horror blending with narrative. Asymmetric characters. Check. We've heard all those terms before. Within the Asylum's haunted corridors, playing through a 2-world system of going back and forth between the two. Haven't we seen that with an Awakened Realms property before that didn't work out so well? Yeah, we did. So, okay, well, how are you going to change this? What are you going to give me in this regard? Bosses behaving differently. Okay, I've heard that too. You don't know which boss you're going to face. Okay, that's slightly interesting. Bosses are gradually revealed. Okay. It's not like I know necessarily what the names of all the bosses are unless you're spoiling yourself through all of these, any other boss battling type system. And there's only one designer diary from Board Game Geek talking about this. Eventually it'll appear in the game, but you don't know until the last moment. And they have weaknesses, but you won't know about those either. But they're specific to artifacts, so you have to prepare accordingly. Okay, that sounds interesting. Traveling between the worlds, rooms are arranged differently, and so you can get in some areas in some world and some areas in the other world, which plays very heavily on the video game side of things in the first place. Dark matter, players accumulating it and becoming, well, closer to death, but also getting abilities in that way. I mean, at the time of me filming this, there's 0 updates to the page. There was the designer diary, like I mentioned, but that was back in frickin' April. And now, at the time of me filming this, we're talking like less than 2 weeks, and I have 0 information. But I know the prototypes are out there. I was just in contact with Awakened Realms, so people have their hands on, and my guess is the fact that we haven't just seen people diarrhea of the mouth video-wise going out there already means there's probably embargo date. And so as soon as that embargo date lifts, you will see it smash you in the face like a dodgeball at elementary school. So I have high hopes for this, but I'm a little bit, cautious as well. Dice Throne Vanguard. Man vs. Meeple just showed us some information. Dice Throne. Manny Tremblay. Give me a call next time. I'd love to showcase it. But Vanguard, right? Boldly accessible. Battles as swift as steel. Heroically replayable. What the freaking deuce does heroically replayable mean? It means absolutely bullshnikey nothing. There is 0 meaning behind that except for just keyword jargon. But if you look up the definition of Vanguard, and we go with that instead, it's a group of people leading the way in new developments or ideas. And so I guess does a Forge Master and a Duelist as the first two announced, the only two revealed at the time of me filming this, feel like that meets the definition of it for you. With the Duelist, at least, you have to balance offense and defense in order to actually have a higher damage output by switching stances. Okay, interesting. That'll be a little bit of something different. But, you know, I guess when I hear that definition, I want something that is going to be a big departure developmentally, idea-wise, schematically, mechanically. How many words can I end with mechanically? But that's what I want, right? And I guess Outcasts kind of maybe is going to do that. Where's Outcasts again? Oh, it's not available yet. So again, I'm fine with this next one coming. But why is Outcast not in our hands, and why are you launching Vanguard already then too? I don't care, mostly, but I see criticisms all the time of other companies, because this is what we are horrible at, right? Getting on my soapbox for a second here. That, okay, let's say Into the Unknown hasn't delivered Kingdoms Forlorn. How dare you mother effin' launch Enormity? This is a Ponzi scheme. I can't believe that is the hypocrisy, and the irony is completely lost on these people all the time online, in the comments, in the forums, in the Board Game Geeks, in the Reddits, in the Facebooks, and it pisses me off. Because it's never consistent. You know? If you're going to criticize somebody for doing it, you can't not criticize other people for doing the same thing. Right? You can hate on CMON and their exclusives, but when all the other small companies do it routinely, when I do the crowdfunding roundups, they all get passes. I don't see anybody shouting the rooftops that that's breaking. No, it's not the same scope, but it's the same premise. Let's not be total hypocrites, even though your boy, chief of them as well. But I'm trying to be better. Don't be one of those people online. Then Red Raven. Red Raven? Open world game? Never heard that before from them. Ryan Laukit, the man, the legend, the myth of all trades, does everything himself, is giving us Song of Silveranth. And again, it's a cooperative open world narrative adventure within the tradition of Sleeping Gods and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. Your friends undertake a treacherous quest confronting powerful kingdoms, suspicious priests. Suspicious priests. Okay, focus. No jokes off of that. Dangerous creatures, afflicted people. Suspicious priests, afflicted people. Anyway, paths to walk, thievery, discourse, combat, intrigue. Is this more like a Skyrim situation? And it's going keyword heavy narrative. So questline character based, changing worlds, surprise endings. How can you have surprise endings. Okay. How can you have a surprise ending? Anyway, we're not going to talk about the video game side of things that does or doesn't do that. Forest paths, dark caverns, and trapped ruins. Combat is quick and dynamic. Okay. Show me, though. Show me your new press your luck system with tactics and weaponry. I'm intrigued. Press your luck. I am a huge no whammy, stop person when it comes to board games. So that's intriguing to me. Larger than life characters, testing your strength, finding the resolve. Again, no content. We're going to see, though, is this going to be another smash hit from Red Raven? The answer is actually yes. That's not really a rhetorical question. You know, I was going to go a different direction with this, but let's just stay with that since we're talking this open world narrative combat style of things. And apparently this is the month of them. This is the month. This is the overarching, I can throw this at the wall and get a whole bunch of money concept that everyone has seen, wants to duplicate, replicate, and cash in on. Because we have now several of these others. Gone to Gaia from Rose Gauntlet. A 1 to 2 player roguelike campaign. So a twist on Slay the Spire meets your open world side of things. 1 to 2 players. 1 to 2 players. Okay. But what you're doing again, you're delving with unlockable quests, branching narrative, meaningful decisions, tactical combat. But that does have some formation. And then you've got town exploration and in-betweens as well. 14 different quests that you're going to be delivering on as you upgrade your individual character cards and, as they say, face the tide. Okay. Monsters, loot, resources, survive, positioning, coordination, card play, permadeath. Yes, you can do permadeath if you so choose. Or maybe not, because it actually looks like you don't get to choose. It's just there. NPCs, quests, gear, 200 pages. 200 more pages of that narrative path that I just mentioned. So, do you like, as they say, big bosses, minions, plastic, miniatures? I mean, the art looks fantastic, but the details of those differences of the keyword jargon again that I mentioned is non-existent at this point as well. So we're going to have to play wait and see with pretty much all of these, because the next one, similarly, is from Open Owl Studios. And this one is Threshold. And again, I'm reading these descriptions quote for quote, so it's not just me making this comparison and making myself look like an a-hole that is comparing things that aren't comparable, right? Cooperative game, epic proportions, deep character customization, strategic combat, immersive world. You know, I could use that description on any of these and you wouldn't be able to tell which one I was talking about. So does that matter to you? Oh, driven tactical combat. No, seriously, another quote straight from the page. Oh, wait, which page? Yes, both of them. Living overworld reacts to your choices. That's a different way of saying that your choices matter and that there is ongoing impact. Card-driven enemies, giving an AI system to tell you what they're going to do with positioning that matters. Didn't we just a deja vu here, right? Each hero customized skills, combos, bosses that escalate difficulty. Okay. Unlockable professions and leveling up. The more you play, the more you grow. Okay. Living world, though, because dynamic world events, decisions that are going to shape your journey with 4 character classes and a loot-driven gameplay. Again, I'm not just cherry picking from these pages as I'm bringing it up and literally telling you what's there. So with any of these, if I said to you right now, pick the one that's going to suit you the best, can you even give me a freaking clue which one is going to be what you may want? No, you can't. And that's okay, I guess. But I worry that with anything like these systems that they're showing us, that they're describing to us with this jargon, obscuring the opacity of what is actually going to be like on the table, that how much of this can you actually reveal during a campaign? And if you can't reveal enough of this during a campaign, then it's going to leave a lot of people FOMOing, which I hate, but also just wondering. And what do I say when you're wondering, right? If you are wondering about backing it, get to the back of the line. Get out of the freaking door and don't do it. And that's going to be the question with any of these. Just like, you know, I hate saying this, Dice Throne, right? It's why I'm waiting for Outcasts at retail. That's why I'm not really as sure on Dice Throne Vanguard on the actual campaign. So both that and why get it on crowdfunding when I can get it for similar later are the questions with both of these. Yeah, art's fantastic. Miniatures kind of okayish, I guess. But why am I risking triple digits on any of these and not waiting? That is the main question you need to have answered before you throw your money at the wall and see if it actually does stick, because it will, and they'll take it, and they're going to run with it, and you're not going to get it back. One last one, I dare say. Again, this is all in a month, folks. All in a month. Indie Boards and Cards has decided that they need to venture into the open world as well, in a sandbox adventure game of endless possibilities. You know, again, I wonder, when you use that, I'm going to quote you literally and say that this game better be endless. There better never be an end point if you're going to put endless in the first place, Travis Archance. So, boundless possibilities along the single road. Brave venturers, brave heroes venture forth, journeying to distant, mysterious lands. Okay. Tropes. Okay. Journey matters more than the destination. That is the one thing that the description seems to shout a little bit differently than the previous ones. Each player is a hero from a distinct world. Everything defines in the game what's going to happen. Encounters, quests, threats, upgrades, special rules that change the sessions. Now this one has no embargo whatsoever, so there have been videos out for a while, but I won't bore you with those details. But 6 worlds are going to be included in this session-based system that you will have the availability to, well, venture through. Again, those videos I was talking about, one is maybe some rules, one is some paid content, and one is somewhere in between. But there's a ton of diaries, at least on Board Game Geek 2. So, without me going in and breaking down all 8 of them, again, how do you feel about more of more? Now, we're not actually straying that far with the next 2, but it is slightly adjacent to this, but far enough that I feel like I can maybe slightly separate them out, because Chip Theory is coming back to crowdfunding on GameFound with the return to Elder Scrolls, because again, if some is good, more is better in terms of money. And so we're getting more Betrayal of the Second Era. We're just getting more expansions. And that's the main thing with this, is that you know, at least with them, that you're getting a slightly better price point. What is the new stuff going to offer? You know, that's going to be the big question. How much? This is reminding me of Too Many Bones and Burn Cycle and all of those Hoplomachus previously, right? It's not that people are afraid to go into things, but it's that if it does well, people are going to milk it dry across the board, whatever company it may be, if you can, right? How many King of Tokyo's, Pandemics, and Ticket to Rides do we have right now? So, again, the board game industry is just like every other industry. The what have you done for me lately, the looking over my shoulder. I literally, on the day of me filming this, just got another 2-player dueling game in the mail. I didn't even know about this one. This is one that you never would have expected it to have a 2-player version of, but yet I just somehow got a prototype sent to me without me knowing. And it's literally the trend. And these are no different. I actually asked originally Chip Theory if I could have a review copy of the Elder Scrolls. And then I actually said, you know what? I don't think this is going to be a good fit for me. It's one of those games that I think I would love somebody else to own and bring over on game night and teach me how to play, right? And that's what this strikes me as. And it strikes me just as Too Many Bones as well, right? Like, you can have plenty of it without having all of it. And so I think they put out an absolutely top-notch product. I think people have been very, very happy with this overall. I'm not good enough, close enough to this, to speak of the individual mechanics in building your Skyrim-esque Elder Scrolls stereotypical character. But people like it for what it is. But again, I just don't know, because is this straying far enough from the Chip Theory 1 to 2 player maximum best player count to intrigue you at the higher player counts? Or should you be looking at the next one instead, which has maybe done the same thing, but maybe done something slightly different? But we're getting Heroes of Might and Magic 3 in the form of the card game now. And so is that from Archon going to be enough for you to wager in? But again, I like that they have to actually put in the comment section. By the way, guys, TCG, it stands for the card game, not collectible card game. Gosh, the fact that you have to clarify that. But it's a 1 versus 1. And so again, it probably is stayed tried and true to the Heroes of Might and Magic, the board game, in that the lower player counts are going to be favored very, very strongly in this one. And I guess that it's not even, apparently, at least at the time of me filming this, going to offer a higher player count in that way, which honestly, I'm rather happy about, because I don't think every game like this needs to have a battle royale, king of the hill, free-for-all style of things. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind it occasionally on Dice Throne, but at the same time, it just kind of always leaves someone in the lurch, and it's never as good as you'd like it because of that in most ways. Now, individual factions, spells, locations, I don't care about card visual effects to collect them, to combine them. That looks like just a TCG, actual TCG model in that sense. But it gives me, as weird as this sounds, Gwent feelings. You know, the recently released Gen Con card game from The Witcher, where you've got these factions and they're going to kind of do that. The only thing I can't tell just by scrolling through the page here, I don't care about the art and you know, the expansion and the unleashing unlimited creative. No, it's not unlimited. Not unlimited. Not. I guarantee it's not unlimited combinations. You can't. Ugh. It's like my 5-year-old telling me he knows what infinity is. Not the case. But what I don't see on here right now, and I'm assuming this is somewhere on there and I'm just hopefully missing it, but is this decks? Or is this deck customization? Is this more deck construction than anything else? And I feel like in some ways it has to be, looking at the layouts of the cards, looking at the units, looking at the spells, all sorts of those things. It doesn't give me Sky Tier Horde-esque vibes. It definitely gives me more of a Marvel Champions in the sense that you're going to have to customize it to fight your opponent in the best way. It's going to be even slightly more adjacent to, say, a Summoner Wars, which maybe comes pre-constructed, but allows you a lot of construction opportunity if you'd rather do that, or even an Ashes style situation. That is the vibe I am getting right now. And I wonder, again, with the board game being so hefty in price, as well as nostalgia-based backing, is this cardboard version of it going to have the same? Or is this going to be really the test to say, yes, people like this, but no, we'd rather throw money at chunks of plastic rather than chunks at cardboard, dichotomy split. Yeah, that was probably redundant there. I went with it anyway. And you know this is a hell of a video when I am only at this point getting to some other huge, massive names, including one that I personally love. Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor. The folks from Nemesis Games who brought us one of, if not the only, competitive 4X style, now taken and smushed together and made cooperative game. And they're bringing it back to us with a true solo, a really freaking good insert designed for people that hate inserts normally, as well as a big box. Okay, but designed by people who love it, not just generic, we're going to ship it to you style of things. So Curse of the Last Emperor is coming back to us. And then subsequently as well, we're talking Terra Mystica and the big box from Steamforged, right? Someone, you know, online media-wise was like, the next redone version of Terra Mystica, isn't that Gaia Project or Age of Innovation? Ba-doom! Bad joke. But again, do you need a big box of either of these? And the answer is yes, but no, right? Because we all pick and choose which ones are okay and which ones aren't. They have a big box edition of Terra Mystica, but Steamforged said, big box, not good enough. We need special edition. It's like when Innovation went from their penultimate to ultimate to, super ultimate, whatever, that style of things. Okay, Steamforge, Terra Mystica. It's getting the Puerto Rico Castles of Burgundy upgrade. So do you like this for allegedly, supposedly, interestingly enough, quote unquote, the most complete game of Terra Mystica out there? Which is weird because the big box has the Fire and Ice expansion, the Merchants of the Seas expansion, the Autumn Solo, as well as the 2 sets of promos. So how do you make it more complete than everything that's out there? I mean, yes, more changed artwork. How do you feel about them artwork right now? Them apples. Premium wooden components. Okay. So yes, that's all I can tell you, because that's all literally that's out there at the time of me filming this, and 13,000 people are going to be following this and seeing where it goes. So, well, tune in, buckle up, and find out. Then we have Honor's End. IB Studios foray back into the deck building style of things, though with a more traditional take, a little bit of a campaign, a little bit of an unlockable system, and getting away from the trope of draw 'em all and play 'em all. So how deep is this going to be? How much content is going to be available? And similarly with other deck building ventures, if it does well, what extra are we going to see down the line? And how do you deluxify, as IB Studios is known for, a deck builder in the first place? Although, to be fair, they did that with Moonrakers, but that was a little bit of a different build in that way, both literally and figuratively. So, fantasy-esque, you'll like the Arthurian style of things? We'll see. Then, Cascadia Alpine Lakes. In case Cascadia Rollings, Cascadia Jr. weren't all enough, Randy Flynn and Beth Sobel are back at it with something that appears on the surface, at least very, very picturesque, like similar, with the standalone follow-up Cascadia. This reminds me in a weird way of like a Dune Imperium Uprising situation. But in this case, again, as you create your mosaic, you're getting combinations of 3 different alpine habitats in which the species are going to be arranged across. How well elevated, how well surrounded your lakes and wildlife are is going to be the other criteria, along with the environment and the habitat aspects that they say are offering quote-unquote unique scoring opportunities. But again, the turns remain relatively the similar aspect, right? So if you didn't like Cascadia, probably not going to appeal to you either. Get a tile, get a token pair, and then place them down. But this time, the habitat is a double hex, and they can be stacked on top of each other. Too much of a good thing? Well, we'll see. I guarantee it's going to crowdfund wild, so, well, how much money can it raise? Let's wade over into the reprints side of things now, because what crowdfunding month wouldn't be complete without several big name publishers bringing us reprints, retreads, and re-expansionification to games that you already know and that already have too much expansions in the first place. Although that's one of them. The second one is just the former there. So stick with me here. Okay, first up though, what I was just talking about. Barrage! Barrage is coming back as one of the heavy games of all time. With the China Challenge, as well as 2 other expansions for games that come from Cranio Creations as well. Rats of Wister and Golem. But let's talk about the China Challenge. This is, quote-unquote, meant to be the last expansion for Barrage. Revolutionary new company. Unique mechanics. Reshaping your destiny. And a new map. So, again, how many times have you played Barrage in the last 6 months to justify this? I have no idea. I'm just throwing that question out there as a segue. But it does, they say, fit in the legendary box if you have it previously. I'm not going to cover the other 2. That is the big name in that regard. But the reprint otherwise that we're talking about is John Company and Molly House from Whirligig Games. We are getting a reprint of both of these, of the evocative historical nature. Because, again, those are actual words from pages, not me just throwing shade at people. And the games are well loved by the people that are supposed to well love them, right? But John Company has never enticed me. Molly House has never enticed me personally from a mechanically speaking aspect. But the Whirligig, what's a different term I can use for the Whirligig lovers? Whirly somethings? I don't know. I'm blanking. I'll come up with something in a couple minutes once we're well past this segment of the video. But what I'm saying is that just like Stonemeyer Champions, right? Just like Simon Chub Junkies, we are getting folks that just absolutely love anything whirly. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I also make the approach that these games are sort of like Lacerda's, where it's a very funneled crowd that enjoys them. I don't really know what the market for a reprint of either of these is. I have absolutely no idea. Because I don't really have tabs or, a pulse on either of these in the secondary market, because they're just not my ilk, and that's okay. Like, to each their own. I always say, if you're freaking enjoying it and you're getting it played, I don't care what weight it is, who is it's about, or what's it's got going on, because you're having fun and you're playing games, and that's the whole premise of my channel in the first place. But this just begs the question, sort of like, Camp Grizzly and some of the other out-of-print ones, which we'll talk about an out-of-print game coming back in a second, of just, what is the demand? Because with something like this, I don't have a clue this versus regular retail. But I have to wonder, when I start looking this up, and I look at the sites that have it now, because we've seen folks like Game Nerds, as well as a few others, actually allow you to almost price it the same on crowdfunding as you can now pre-order. So you can actually get Molly House at the second of me filming this for $75 from Whirly's website. The Whirligig website, right? From their shop. But I have pre-orders available from Card House and Game Nerds, pre-orders though, again, pre-orders versus right now, for $20 less to $25 less. $57 is the going price right now on the pre-order at Game Nerds. So how much of a premium are you willing to pay to get it now versus later? I guess that's pretty amicably close to what the backer kit situation was the previous time around, because it was $60 before shipping when it went on crowdfunding, listed as a $75 MSRP, which is now up to $79.99, which is the actual retail price from Whirligig. So will you afford it that way? If they offer it $60, because again, crowdfunding, tariffs, shipping, everyone yells at you and says, I'm going to get the free shipping on Game Nerds Card House, you're realistically talking $45 difference potentially. And when you start getting past 15 or 20 bucks, I don't know about you, but I look at that as not insignificant, because it's not the core premise of one, but it adds up over several campaigns if you do that, where you're talking $100+. And that is a whole lot of money to go to a whole hell of a lot of other stuff, because all the motherfucking prices on cost of living in general are going up. So there's a trickle-down effect significantly with this. But support who you want to support in this way, I guess. But do you always need to support them on crowdfunding? I don't think there's anything wrong with supporting it retail in any shape or form. I'm going to leave it there. Then I had my eye on this one from Esper Games Studio, and they reached out to me, and I actually owe them an email back, so I'll probably be doing that right after I film this video. Eldertide, 1,000 Lights, set in their new realm of Eldertide in general. Their trilogy, right? Set in the same universe. I think they're going like different mechanical approach with each game, though. Unfold over a connected timeline. Lead a house of a seafaring nation to reclaim what has been lost due to supernatural storms. The tricky part with this, for me personally, is it's a pick up and deliver as you set sail across different ports on your ship, collecting, investing, facilitating, building along the way to route plan and resource manage. It does appear at least 3.0 weight rating on Board Game Geek, which is not insignificant, but I look at this and go, okay, what is going to be the difference in a route building, pick up, and deliver? Like, we've seen twists and spins on other mechanics that you can think of in the deck building, boss battling, dungeon crawling style. What's going to be the catch for this? What's going to be the hook to get you in now, just with anything else, as we've talked about already? I mean, gonna have a really close eye on it, but the show me what you got, why I'm gonna get it now factor is ultimately, like with a lot of these projects, the big make it or break it. Now, again, this is a company you have heard of, but you haven't heard of them recently. The folks behind Hexplore are giving us another foray into a, well, cooperative crawl realm, if you will, but we're going more like the show Supernatural, but actually just Supernatural in general, with a cooperative horror deduction escalating supernatural tension style game. And your agents exploring supernatural disturbances, right? Clues, confront the demon, unique asymmetric abilities, 2 stages of a mission, investigate, find out the identity, manage your sanity, avoid the deadly manifestations, and then banishment ritual. Okay, so Cthulhu Death May Die on a different vibe, but it's at least intriguing enough to make me want to add it on the thinking about it side of my wish list to check it out when it launches in that way. But with all of the other Hexplore situations as well, again, how different with those keywords is this going to be from a set it apart standpoint? Hellbringer. Speaking of that supernatural demon-esque side of things, 1 to 4 players, cooperative, hero-driven, dark fantasy, sort of, well, Diablo-esque, right? Level up, gain equipment, learn skills, manage it all together. As, actually, I didn't really know this, Board Game Quest Awards, Best Cooperative Game nominee. Okay, I want to see what it can do. I want to see what it is, because the 173 ratings right now on Board Game Geek give it a 8.7 overall. So again, just like with even on the other side of things, mechanically speaking, your John Company, your Molly House that I was talking about, right? The people who love it, love it. So I'm looking at this and going, well, obviously the people that got it on crowdfunding love it. But what about the casual? What about the I pick it up? What about the comparisons to a Massive Darkness or anything else along those lines that can be somewhat similar? Let's see. And again, if it's that good, we'll see more funds get funneled its way. Gosh, again, you would think for a campaign that has 24,000 people following it, this would have been much earlier in the video as well. But like a lot of these, video game-wise, IP property-wise, with big names, we've kind of just seen a little bit of all over the place in what gets funding and what doesn't. I'm looking at you, most recent Steamforged Elden Ring game expansion situation. So when Monolith decided to announce that they had the property rights for Berserk, the manga and anime, to come to a miniature-driven cooperative board game, people have been very intrigued by this very dark, violent fantasy-style game. So, right, we're going to see 1 to 5 players, 18 and up only. By the way, I really like that. I was playing the kids game Kariba, the Kinesia, zoo-esque card game with my kid today. And he was commenting, he's like, Dad, you can play this with 7 people. Or, actually, you can play this with 6 people. And I was like, no, buddy, that's the age. You have to be 6 to 99. So once you turn 100, you can't play this game anymore. And he was like, oh. Anyway, though. Legendary manga. Again, the theme of this video. Each hero has its own unique set of cards used to move, attack, defend, and trigger special abilities. But beware, the more you use, the more you lose. Or more fatigue sits in. I mean, we know Monolith puts out good miniatures. And From the images right now, you can already see that it's going to come in what appears to be 2 core boxes, which apparently is their thing, because if you've ever gotten any of the Mythic Battles, they all come in 2 core boxes too, which scares me of what the price is going to be even before this goes, right? The board setup looks more almost like an Oathsworn Hexplorit vibe than it does a traditional dungeon, anything else along those lines, which is intriguing, actually. I actually am intrigued by the look of this as someone who has not really ever been enamored with super violent or super dark style vibes, whether it is live action, animated, or even written in that sense. So that's what you're getting with this. How true are they going to stay, and how much of this manga are you actually going to see? Because again, this is one of those where, as much as this as a nerd should be my vibe, it's just one of those that is not my vibe. But there are tons of freaking miniatures on the preview page right now, like tons. Okay, so then we get finally past all the pictures, and they show you that each hero has their own 2 dashboards. 2 dashboards, okay? You upgrade your action cards, and there's an event deck. So, hero turn, enemy turn, events, upkeep. You choose your cards, you play them, they give you a very similar looking dice pool to what you may have seen when you do Monolith's Mythic Battles Pantheon, in terms of laying these cards out, splaying them, creating a combo in order to sum up all of your dice, your movements, your defense, and whatever effect is laying on the top card first. So you do all of that. You take the fatigue that is represented by the combination of those, though, and then after all, this is the interesting part, all heroes have activated, then the enemy goes, and they've got obviously their own AI system in terms of that. And so depending on what round it is and what actions have happened, the event cards are going to trigger. So everybody returns their cards to their hand afterwards, though, which is kind of okay, I guess. Except, they don't return instant cards, but could you just then spam the same set of cycles over and over again? And so that's what I'd worry about with this. And similarly, right? Batman, hello? What is the rules overhead and rules minutia going to look like this, right? It only took 3 or 4 times around to get one of the experts on how to play a game to review it. So are you going to show us this level of quality from the get-go? Now, the only other interesting thing I'll say about this, because I've been talking about this one for too long already, is that at the bottom of their page right now, they actually have an image that says, we have already started on the masters and the molds of the resins and the physical samples. And we've already got 100% of the game designed, we've got 100% of the artwork and 100% of the sculpts, and almost 95% of everything else, proofreading, layout, and translation from French to English done. Again, that French to English better be motherfucking good, because there's been some issues. And I don't want, like Mythic Battles, I don't want 2 copies of everything, and that's the reason I need 2 boxes to hold all this motherfucking waste of space stuff. Either separate them out into French or English, or guess what? I'd say just I'm out, period, in general. Because I can't tell how much miniature focus this is going to be versus actual dynamic, awesome gameplay. And guess what you do if you can't tell, folks? You pass. Speaking of things that you can't tell, though, again, Unstable Games is probably going to get another couple $1 million here over on crowdfunding. But this time we're talking about their GameFound Mystic Moon situation from, the creators of Here to Slay and Casting Shadows, all of which have raised 7 figures previously, multiple 7 figures. And it doesn't have as many people following, but it still has 18 freaking thousand people following, which is an insane amount in general. But it's competitive potions and puzzles. The one thing that's pissed me off about all of these campaigns, almost every single campaign that they have put out, it has this intriguing premise with a hook to get it into Target and to casual audiences, households everywhere. But they almost never put a rule book during the campaign whatsoever, and you're lucky even sometimes before the pledge manager closes. The aesthetic has carried this to all of those places. But I just don't know if this is going to be the same, right? Again, they've got this very vague overview on the preview page of witches' huts. You get a cauldron. You take turns visiting the garden, collecting ingredients. You get 3 different types of rarities. Brew potions. Watch out for frogs and mushrooms. Get star power. And do 5 rounds and you win. So the thing I wonder with this one, more than anything else, I have talked about this previously. I have taken a lot of flack from the powers that be about this. Because I think, truly, there is a migratory effect that happens from Kickstarter to GameFound. I think Unstable Games, if you would ask me, has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of casual Kickstarter browsing. I have no idea what it's going to do here, and I think it's going to be a really interesting look to see what the funding looks like, just purely from a curiosity standpoint as an outsider looking in. Because again, like, I think that in the core premise of several of these games from Unstable Games, they are really good. The fine-tuning or the play testing kind of reaches a point where I'm not sure how much goes on after a certain time, and then you end up with games that could be 7.5s or 8s that are really more like 5.5s or 6s on Board Game Geek. And again, you know, there's nothing wrong with a good lightweight 6 game, but when I'm looking at this game nowadays, at least for me personally, I'm looking at this and going long-term longevity, not buying it because Unstable Games has offered a freaking ton metric of exclusives in the past and you don't want to FOMO because now the expansions that they didn't offer on all the previous ones are going for 6 times the price on eBay, because that's also what's happened as well. And then again, I can't believe it's taken me this long to even get to this, because I think a lot of people are going to have this, at least the reviewer side of things, hype-wise, that I have seen, talking about Cretaceous Rails from Spielcraft, as a copy is actually sitting on the floor behind the camera right now, because they sent me one to review before the campaign, which I'm hopefully going to get done, but it might be in the middle of the campaign, so buyer beware more than anything else. People have this potentially on their top 10 list, and I would be surprised, because all of the vibe, all of the hype that I have seen has been acclaimed. So I expect when I look on this crowdfunding page to just see quotes from all of the biggest people blowing this thing up through the roof. Other people hyping it. Is it right for you? Innovative dual action worker placement system with route building, tableau building, and resource management. And if you only play it 30 minutes per player and you play it 2 or 3 players and it actually is shorter than what it actually is listed as, that's a fantastic concept to be able to do. The best Dino Safari, what I wished the other dinosaur game would have been, for time-traveling tourists. So ludicrous and so ridiculous that it actually flips the script and works in that way. Overproduced? Probably. Coloration scheme, my favorite? No! But, I mean, there's something also just very strangely appealing from, you know, that aspect. As a very strange guy in the first place, own recognizes own, right? Same recognizes same, whatever that phrase is. But it's underneath, apparently, much more thinkier than you'd expect. So, action selection grid, but user reviews are a little all over the place too, between 6s and 10s. So, oh gosh, you know, it's just funny when you read some of these comments that they get so worked up, right? Especially the 3s. I'll leave it at that. Wonderland's War, the duel game. Nope, we're not talking about Mad Kala, but a whole separate Wonderland's War duel, as well as Wonderland's War, the regular version of things, is coming back with the White Queen and the Caterpillar expansion. Now, this is the problem with area control asymmetric games, right? Is that if you didn't get the, you know, upgraded versions of some of the previous ones that either were printed off or I think given away in the second campaign, then, you know, again, how do you feel about that? I still have mixed feelings about it with my Dice Throne situation when I'm getting the leaflets for, you know, like Kickstarters 2-3 years ago, because they found out that after long-term balance issues are there in the first place. I don't know. Again, is it really an issue? Yes, but at the same time, no. Balance is highly overrated, and unless you're doing tournament style and massive meta scaling, it doesn't really freaking matter. But it still is somehow the Achilles bane heel of a lot of people's gaming interests because we obsess over minutia in ways that don't even affect us. Oh, dagger to the heart there. But White Queen and Caterpillar, right? Do you need more stuff? The chips are nice. I'm not a big fan of the miniatures. I think the cardboard or the standees in that sense works well. I think it's easy from a rules overhead standpoint, but I haven't played it in a long time. And I really don't like the fact that the chips and everything else are stored separately from the base game. And I'm just looking at it because it's literally like right here, just out of arm's reach. So I'm not sure. But like all of the other dueling trends that we've seen this last, well, year and a half, is this going to be something that's worth writing home about, something that's notable? How are you going to take this and do something different than, say, the Mad Kala or from the actual area control aspect? Because the thing that has been most rampantly apparent with the more successful ones, I'm looking at you, White Castle Duel and Splendor Duel, is that they stay true to what you know, but they completely turn it on its head in a slightly different way as well. And I don't have a clue, right? This is why I'm not a game designer, but what can you do with Wonderland's War in that sense? Now, it's been at some conventions. I have not personally seen anything, and there is nothing on Board Game Geek at the time of me filming this from those people that I know have media content creation side of things that have clearly covered it, because I see the social media posts. I do. So, we'll see. Right? Tug of War, Bag Builder, 3 win conditions is what the description says. But 60 to 90 minutes, ooh, that's a bit longer than I would have expected, but what is it going to look like? The pictures are absolutely gorgeous in terms of looking like a table presence winner, but mechanically speaking, if I have a hard time getting that one to the table, if I have a hard time expounding the virtues of that to my game group, is this one going to change my wife's opinion in general? So we'll see. Then I finally will get to it here, the remake that I alluded to earlier in the form of Ikusa Samurai Sword 40th Anniversary Edition. It's from actually Milton Bradley, Shogun Samurai Swords, then Ikusa, and you're fighting over, feudal Japan. So it's more of a war game, territorial war game, area majority with dice rolling. And it's coming to GameFound for the 40th Anniversary Edition. So nostalgia? Or can you remake a classic more updated? So show me what you can do, Restoration Games style, Renegade Games style. But again, no details. Not a whole lot of what's going to be different and why should I get it, or does it stand true to the test of time now 40 years later? But, we'll see. Arcane Wonders, very quickly at the end here, is giving us Raas, A Dance of Love, the dice drafting, tableau building, one of the more acclaimed under-the-radar style Gen Con games that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, that has been on my radar for probably like a year since it was originally announced. But game board, 7 discs connected with gear mechanisms. Each disc has 6 dancers as dice. You mix and match and you draft and you score. So, did you think you'd be playing a best dance troupe variation game in the near future? Well, you can if you like the same things I like, because I think this one has a little bit of a light sleeper hit all over. And then Tenpenny Parks is coming back to us from Thunderworks Games. So that's kind of the situation there with a new expansion. Now, if you're not familiar with Tenpenny Parks, it's more of, again, your build theme park style tile layer, but now with a slight worker placement over 5 rounds called months. There was a mini expansion the first time around, and now we're getting a full-on expansion, the innovative expansion, with another little mini expansion, more asymmetry, more layouts, and new player boards, and new sets of just the stuff. So again, this is kind of one of those, it got a lot of hype around the time it launched and after it got released in terms of its compatriots from a tile laying standpoint, but I'm just not sure when you're talking more of its contemporaries in terms of the tile laying of these aspects, even like with a World Wonders, has it been eclipsed? Has it still been on your radar? Do you like the slight worker placement situation that this brings as a difference or not? And that's why we're talking about it, though, because it's Thunderworks and Again, I told you, tons of names, too many games. That's why this video went 3 times as long as I was hoping, because you know I just can't stop myself from ranting, side-trailing, and bunny squirreling everywhere from that aspect. You know it's true because Bluey endorses it. That's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking awesome day and play some fun games. Whatever that is for you. So, thanks for supporting me. Thanks for subscribing. If somehow you made it to this part of the video and you're not subscribed and you just heard that, you're like, what the hell is going on in his head? That's why people subscribe to me, because I'm that freaking weird, like I said earlier in the video. Peace out. Stay classy.